For 6 episodes now, this agent has been spending real money on every single run. And for 6 episodes, I never once stopped to look at the bill. So this time I did what everyone tells you to do the moment a bill gets out of hand. I added 3 things at once: caching, model routing, and a hard budget ceiling. Here is the real question this episode has to answer. Do any of the 3 levers everyone reaches for first actually save money against a baseline that already works? Watch the total the second I switch all 3 on. It goes up, not down, to about $1.27. This is the episode where none of my 3 cost levers beat the baseline, and I'm going to show you exactly why that happened. Welcome back. Version 4 already sits at 92% and it genuinely works. But 6.7 million people download this SDK every week and plenty of them ship it straight into production. That's where a new problem shows up. One, the demos never mention. The bill. So the plan for this episode is the same discipline I've used every episode so far. Add the standard cost controls, then measure each one against the version that already works. A lever that doesn't pay for itself just adds complexity to the code, nothing more. Here is one thing you can actually go do: clone the repo and open the branch for this episode. The SDK moves fast, so trust what's in the repo over what's on my screen. First, a principle: before you cut anything, find out where the money is actually going. A ticket isn't one API call. The agent loops through a few steps every time. It gathers information, it takes an action, then it checks its own work. And on every single one of those steps, the agent resends the same long instruction prefix, the policy and the context it needs to do its job. That prefix sent over and over turns out to be most of the bill. Here is the part that surprised me the first time I saw it. The model charges full price the first time it sees that prefix, but only a tiny fraction every time after, as long as it gets cached. So the exact same block of text can cost you a lot or almost nothing, depending only on whether it gets reused. Hold that picture for a second: a big prefix repeated on every term, a small reply, and a tiny sliver for whatever gets read from cache. 2 of our 3 levers live right inside that picture, and so does the twist that's coming. 3 levers, and each one does one simple job. Lever 1 is caching, which pins that repeated prefix so the agent reads a cached copy instead of paying to create it fresh every time. That sounds like a pure win on its own. So keep one word in the back of your mind for later. Already. Lever 2 is routing, which sends a simple how-to question to a cheaper, faster model instead of the strong one. That one comes with a big if attached, so hold that thought too. And lever 3 is a budget ceiling, which caps what any single ticket is allowed to spend. This one exists for safety, not for savings. So keep those 2 ideas separate in your head. Going into this, I was sure at least 2 of these 3 levers would pay off. So let me build all 3, measure each one honestly, and let the bill tell me the truth instead of my gut. Lever 1 is caching, so don't try to read the whole block, just watch the one line I've highlighted. I take version 4's prompt, completely unchanged, and drop a boundary marker right after it. Everything above that marker gets flagged as stable, so it becomes eligible to be cached across sessions. The intent is simple. Ticket 2 should read a prefix that ticket 1 already paid to cache instead of paying to create it all over again. Remember that word from a minute ago already, because version 4 never had this marker and version 4 wasn't exactly paying full price either. Hold on to that thought, it matters a lot in just a few minutes. Lever 2 is the ceiling, and it only takes one line to set it. A normal ticket costs pennies, so it sits way below that ceiling and never fires anywhere in the graded run. This lever isn't about saving money on a normal ticket. It exists to stop a runaway ticket and hand it to a human before it burns a hole in the budget. If a ticket ever spirals out of control, the loop ends cleanly and a person picks it up, a controlled handoff instead of a silent blow up. I proved that trip path on a separate forced run, and it's sitting right there in the repo if you want to check it yourself. But let's be honest about what this lever actually is. On a normal day, it saves you nothing. Lever 3 is routing. A cheap classifier reads every ticket, and then a strict rule decides which model actually handles it. Anything that touches an account or anything sensitive always stays on the strong model. Only the plainly simple tickets get routed to the cheap one. Now watch the highlighted line, because it's half the story of this whole episode. That triage call runs on every single ticket, not just the ones it ends up routing cheap. Keep that in mind because it's about to matter a lot. Now I actually measure all three levers, and this is exactly where my intuition falls apart. Here's what I expected going in. Caching would drop the bill, routing would drop it even more, and the budget ceiling would just keep me safe. Here is what actually happened. Start with routing because it's the loud failure here. The triage classifier ran on all 25 tickets in the set. That cost about 15 cents total just to sort tickets into simple or not simple. And out of all 25, it only found 3 tickets simple enough to route to the cheap model. 3. On a real support desk, almost every ticket needs to look at someone's account. And by design, those all have to stay on the strong model. That's the security lesson from episode 3. So I paid a classifier tax on 25 tickets just to save money on 3 of them. The total bill went from about $1.13 up to about $1.27. Routing didn't cut the cost. It added a toll booth in front of every ticket that came through. So I cut it, and I expected version 6 to finally land back below where I started. Watch what happens instead. Version 6 keeps the 2 levers I was sure about, caching and the ceiling, and it cuts the one that hurt. Then I rerun the same 25 tickets I test every single episode. The curated set, completely unchanged. Watch all 4 numbers land, including the ones I didn't want to see. Task success rate 88%. That's a hair under version 4's 92. Same code, same model as version 4. So I'm reading that as run-to-run variance on a few borderline tickets, not the levers doing damage. I'm showing you the number I actually got, not the number I was hoping for. Unrecoverable errors, 0, same as every version before it. Median cost per task ticks up to a few cents higher than version 4's number. Human handoffs actually drop a little compared to the routed version, the one real improvement in this whole episode, and it came from clearer escalation, not from cost. And now the number that started this whole episode, the total bill, about $1.21. That's lower than version 5's $1.27 because cutting routing undid some of the damage. But it's still higher than version 4's $1.13, the number I started with. I did not beat the baseline, and I want to tell you exactly why, because it's the whole point of this episode. Version 4 was already caching. The SDK does prompt caching automatically by default with no code from me at all. The biggest cost lever in this entire episode had already been pulled before I ever wrote a single line for version 5. My explicit marker didn't stack a new saving on top of that. It just added a little churn. So version 6 recreates the cached prefix slightly more often and costs a hair more. The ceiling never fired once in the entire graded run. So look at what actually happened to the three controls I was so sure about walking in. One of them actively hurt. One of them was already done for me by the SDK before I even started. And one of them is just insurance, saving you nothing on a quiet day. So here is the recap, and here is the answer to the question I opened with. Find where the money actually goes before you touch anything. A big repeated prefix. Read again on every single turn. The SDK already caches that for you automatically, so the expensive optimization is done before you even show up. Don't undo it, and don't assume your own version of it is somehow better, because mine wasn't. Keep the budget ceiling though. It's a rail that hands a runaway ticket to a human, and it costs nothing on a normal day while it saves you on a bad one. And routing the lever almost everyone reaches for first actually cost me money here, because it taxes every ticket to save on just a few, and on an account heavy desk there are only ever a few. It pays off when most of your traffic is genuinely simple, and mine wasn't, so I cut it on camera with the receipt to prove it. So here is what actually ships. Version 4's economics plus the budget rail for safety, no routing, no clever cache marker. Not one of the three controls I built this episode beat the baseline I started with, and that's the honest answer. The real discipline here isn't about collecting levers. You measure every one of them against the bill, and you stay willing to throw away the ones you were sure about. Next episode is security. The agent already refuses dangerous actions and hands them to a human. This time, someone actually tries to talk it out of that, a real prompt injection arriving straight through the agent's own tools, and we watch whether the gate holds.